Welcome to the Solial Approach event on babies and children's sleep. I'm Hazel Douglas. I founded the Solial Approach and I'm a child psychotherapist and clinical psychologist. So I started work with health visitors over 20 years ago, and the first issue they picked on was sleep. We were very lucky because we had the inspiration of Dilys Dawes, who wrote a marvellous book called Through the Night. And if you've never read it, I really do recommend it. It's a superb read. So welcome today. We started this project with practitioners and parents, not knowing how it would turn out, but we're all really pleased with how it has turned out. And you'll find the video resources, which are about different issues to do with sleep, at our website www.inourplace.co.uk, and if you want to know some more of that address, it's /sleep. But welcome to everybody here in the audience, and the people on the panel who are people who've been involved with producing this. And welcome to everybody who's joined us virtually. It's marvellous that so many of you are interested in sleep and what we're doing about it. Hopefully we're going to cover the things that you want to know about. If we don't, we've got a team, and if you pop your question on YouTube, Mary Reeston, who a lot of you know, who's a health visitor and the Solial Approach manager, is there to answer you, as well as some other people, so do feel free to do that. So I'm going to introduce you, or the panel will introduce themselves in a minute, but before that I just want to say a few words on sleep, and as I'm talking I can say whatever I want, whenever I want, so I'm going to talk about sleep for just a minute or so, which is why have we done this? Well, sleep is exceptionally important for many reasons, but one of them is it helps our bodies heal, it's when our bodies grow, and it's also when our minds heal when we're asleep. So thousands of years ago, the ancient Greeks knew that, and they called it hypnotherapy, which is sleep therapy. And then in the 1500s, some of you may recall Shakespeare wrote, in my opinion, one of his best lines ever, which was "Sleep that knits the ravelled sleeve of care," and that's what sleep does. Now, on top of those sorts of things, sleep is also about separation. It's about down-regulation, which I'm not going to say anything about that because it may come out in the panel discussion or in the videos. So the Solial Approach model, which is containment, reciprocity and understanding behaviour, can be very helpful in illuminating the story. What is the story around sleep in this family? Because often when we understand something, then we can start working with it ourselves. So the idea that came out from the practitioners and from parents was, why don't we do these videos, which we have done, and that's what this is all about. And hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as hopefully everybody enjoyed making it. That's quite a big assumption, but never mind. What I'm going to do is ask the panel to tell me, and you, who they are, why they supported the project, and what's the most important thing they'd like all of you to know about sleep. So, do you want to start, James?
Yeah, so my name is James Sloan. I am a parent who's taken part in the project, and why I took part was that we were finding it very difficult for our daughter to get to sleep, and we were exploring all options, and obviously wanted to find what was the best. And my sort of takeaway from today is that sleep's very much a journey from what I've come to understand, and very much a team effort if it can be. Clearly I'm not the mother, so I don't have those maternal instincts and so forth, but there is obviously parts that I can play in that sleep journey. So yeah, very much stick together, you will get through it, and it very much is a journey.
And one thing you were telling me before, James, was about how lonely it can be in the night when...
Yeah, very much so, yeah, because obviously sleep takes place at night time often, and you're often there on your own, thinking that it is just yourself going through this, but I think it's very important to remember that there obviously are thousands and thousands of babies out there, and parents alike going through the same sort of pattern that you're going through, so you're not alone. And these wonderful people here are just here to help as well, but there's also other groups you can get in touch with and reach out and make sure you do so, because like I said, there is help available.
Thanks, James. Rebecca, do you need a reminder of the three things you got?
So yeah, I'm Rebecca Johnson, and I'm a clinical psychologist and a parent. And I think that, I mean, I took part because we're passionate in the Solihull approach about supporting parents and helping parents to find what works for them. And I think that there's a couple of things I would really want people to, well, one thing that I would really want people to take away about sleep is that sleep is both a physiological process and an emotional process. So each individual baby, child is going to be wired differently. They're going to be having a different set of needs, even within the same family. And the task is to find out what helps them to slow down, wind down, and be able to drift into that sleep state. But they also have an emotional experience of going to sleep, and that involves being on their own and being able to tolerate that and learning how to handle that kind of really intense, powerful feeling. And so that's very difficult, I think, when you're an exhausted parent, to be able to manage your own emotions when a baby is expressing those needs and being really vulnerable.
Thank you, Rebecca. Kate?
Hi, I'm Kate Gould, Senior Nursery Nurse working with Solihull Health Visiting Team. I'm a parent myself, and I've also got 30 years experience working with children and supporting parents and families. Where I took part in the project, obviously Solihull Approach trained, and we use the ethos of that in our day-to-day practice, and we get lots of requests around sleep support for our families. So it was, I jumped at the chance and the opportunity to work obviously on this exciting project to help support families further. Something to take away, or the project highlighted that children are very individual. Obviously their sleep experiences, but also their family situations are also very different. But how families or parents can be feeling about the sleep challenges can be very similar as well. And I think it's important that, a bit like what James and Rebecca were saying, they're not alone, and it's finding that strategy that works. It's not a one size fits all. You can't just read something and it's going to work, obviously, for the baby. So it's working together and finding that strategy. My children are in their 20s now, and I would like to reassure parents that it does get to a point that they're actually sleeping longer than they're actually awake. So there is hope out there for you. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Kate. Elaine?
Hi, I'm Elaine. I'm a registered midwife and lactation consultant, and I'm also the infant feeding coordinator within Solihull Health Visiting Service. And I work within Solihull Infant Feeding Team, and I've worked in the team for 16 years. So over the years, what the team have found is that we get lots of questions about sleep, because it can often seem that it's interlinked with feeding. And so it's thought that there must be a feeding problem. And then it's like, is it a sleep problem? Is it a feeding problem? Is it neither? Is it normal? So it's about unpicking what's normal baby behaviour from both those point of views. And that's not only for new babies, but it's also for older babies, because sleep issues can coincide with times like parents returning to work, babies going to nursery, teething, developmental stages, changes at home, illness, so lots of reasons why they'll wake up. And quite often, particularly if they're breastfeeding, they'll want to feed when they wake up, so it can be seen that there must be something going on with feeding here, and that's not necessarily the case. And what we hear a lot is that parents use breastfeeding as a call it a parenting tool, because it's thought that whatever the problem, a quick cuddle and a feed, a short feed sometimes, can be the answer. So the most important thing that I would say about sleep and breastfeeding is that it's not just about nutrition. In the early days it probably is more about nutrition. It's also about comfort. So, as a new baby and as an older baby, with all the changes that I've just mentioned, they might just want a bit of a cuddle, and that might just involve going to the breast for a few minutes, and that might be all that's needed to solve the problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. Pauline?
Hi, my name's Pauline. I'm one of the health visitors in the Solihull Health Visiting Team, and I have a special interest in infant and parent mental health. The reason why I became involved with the project, with the Sleep Project, we have a very dynamic team in Solihull, in our health visiting team, with really strong leadership, and myself and Kate were really keen to embrace that, and we have really strong links with the Solihull approach from its conception. As health visitors, we're uniquely placed to help parents in the 0 to 5 age range, and we love to go and help them and support them. And sleep is always, as the panel have said, one of those issues that we do come across that a lot of people want support with. So that is the reason why I wanted to get involved, because it obviously has an impact on parents' mental health and children's mental health. So as it's been a privilege to go and visit the people and the families that have been involved in this project. I reflect back on my own training in Solihull approach, and you always remember the person who did that 2-day training. Everyone I've spoken to smiles, they take it away with them and they remember it, and it just is ingrained into you. I had my own children, I had my training before I had my own children, and I kept the folder and I got it out many times as a parent and referred back to it, and it has been absolutely amazing to learn about it. So that's why I wanted to be involved in it. I'm really passionate about the Solihull approach and letting all the parents that we visit know about it and how it's interlinked with everything that we do in every relationship. I'm also currently training in video interactive guidance, which is also very much on the same level as attunement and reciprocity and containment. What have I taken away from this project, and I'd like to share, is I think just the appreciation that each family is very different. They're being curious about their journey, being curious about where they are, where they want to get to, and just about that really special, unique relationship that parents have with their children or carers have with their children, and how that emotional nurturing can take place through the whole day, and it's just as important in the day as it is at night time, for them to embrace that and to realise that that's really, really typical behaviour for most families. It is a really lonely time in the middle of the night, and it can feel like despair. So it's just about getting that message across, that by unpicking and unpacking with those parents and sitting down and having that conversation on many sofas, which I've sat on through this project, is really important to understand that family, their unique journey. And it is a journey, like you said, James, it is a journey, and that's what health visitors are so well placed to help with that journey and support parents in every way that they can.
Thanks, Pauline. So I've got some questions that were prepared earlier, and I'm very keen to ask you, James, about, and then open it up to anybody who wants to say something about it. But how do you think dads can help their baby sleep?
Touched on it before briefly. Clearly we've not got the anatomy, if you will, to help with the maternal side of things, but I like the phrase teamwork makes the dream work. It's a nice little pun there, but it's ultimately doing other parts which then helps the mother do her part, if you will, to the best of her ability. and to treat it, if you can, as a team, you know. So if my wife was, you know, feeding, etc., that I would help out with other parts of the housework or the cleaning, etc. But more importantly, being there for each other mentally, I think, is really, really key. We touched on it before, being a lonely place, but you know, if you're sharing that, and you know, a problem halved is a problem shared, or such, or got that wrong way around. But either way, sharing that problem is probably the best thing to do. So how do fathers get involved? Being there emotionally, and also supporting through other ways that they can.
Thanks, James. Anybody else want to comment on that? What do you think?
I think it's about being part of the routine. If you're reading stories or having that skin to skin, bathing, and being part, and sometimes that can, you know, be difficult around working hours if, you know, that does impact, but it's just having that time and being part of the routine as much as you can, and share obviously bedtime process as well.
I think it's important for you to have that availability to contain and help your partner, but also for you then to have that for you as well. So having that family support is quite important as well for dads, I think, because, you know, dads are pivotal, all partners, whoever is there in that relationship. It's really important to have that family network around you to draw on to help contain you as well, because it can be a lot, like you're saying, it's a lonely place sometimes. So definitely having that support network is really something that we talk about as health visitors, that's really important to you, to think about who's that nurturing universe you can go to help you if you are feeling a bit low yourself, and supporting your partner in that process.
And I think even when a mum's breastfeeding, a partner can still be there. You know, it's not just a time that you can just get on with your sleep and then the partner's there on her own breastfeeding, because there's many things that you can do, especially emotionally and mentally, to support them. Otherwise they're sat there feeling like the only person awake and feeding. And even if it's practical things like changing nappies and winding and stuff in the night, but also that emotional support, just being another person that's awake at night with them. I'm not saying all the time, but you know, just to, you know, just let them know that you're there for them.
Thank you. Well, my next question, which just jump in on this because it's a really, really general question. If your baby wakes in the night, how might you respond? I mean, that is a great big question that covers like billions of families, but never mind.
Let's go first.
I think it's just about, you know, understanding that baby brain, that journey that you're on, how old is that child. If somebody came to one of the health visitors and said, my baby keeps waking in the night, then it's just about unpicking that and unpacking it. What's going on? You know, has you know, somebody just gone back to work? What's the environment like for that child? Does that child spend time in the bedroom, in that environment they're sleeping in the day? And generally just unpicking that unique situation that they're in, because every family is very different with different needs. So as a health visitor, we would sit down and we would say, so tell me about your routine at night time. Tell me what baby's doing. What happens? What do you do when baby wakes up in the night? What is it that we can help support you with? It might be that, you know, there's other issues going on. So it's really understanding and being very curious about what is going on with that family, to then be able to help them to work through why their child is waking in the night. If they are breastfeeding and waking up, it's that comfort, it's that nurturing that they need. And again, it all depends on the age of the child. It's very important to understand, but it is about that nurturing at night time and that separation and understanding what's going on there. So very much using the model of containing parents and that reciprocal relationship, and understanding that, where that's what we would do as health visitors to help support.
Thanks, Pauline. Anybody else?
I think as well, it's just checking the physical needs as well. You check if, you know, they need changing, or if they're warm, are they too cold, and then obviously, like Pauline was saying, it's that emotional reassurance then, isn't it, and the support. Babies don't know how to fall to sleep on their own when they're born, obviously, and they seek that reassurance and support that they're learning through that relationship, obviously, with their parent or caregiver, and that's what they're looking for at that time, if it is that they've woken. Obviously look at their physical needs. Is there anything that they need, and then obviously support and find what soothes them to help them go back to sleep.
Thanks, Kate. So what you'll notice there is that I asked a really, really general question about if your baby wakes in the night, how might you respond? And you'll notice that nobody came up with 5 tools and techniques that you can use in the night, because every baby and family is different. And what came out clearly there is to go a step backwards about what is the developmental age of your baby, what's going on, is to understand what is the story here, rather than jumping in with something which, may be helpful or it may not. So, yeah, thank you. Anybody, what can parents do to look after themselves if they aren't getting enough sleep?
I think I'll just I go back to this teamwork thing again. I think it's so key. And if it's again to talk about it first and foremost. I know my marriage was built on a strong foundation. However, it tests you when you're not getting sleep. Sleep deprivation does some horrific things.
James is having to say that, by the way, because his wife is in the audience.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I want to stay married as well. But no, it does some horrendous things to your sleep deprivation, and I think understanding that each of you are going through this. So if one does snap, then not to necessarily snap back and stuff like that. Have that sort of understanding. But equally try and do stuff together as well. Utilise the network we talked about around you. If there are grandparents, godparents, aunties, uncles, etc. Not just randomers, obviously, but anyone out there that can help take the child, for a little bit, and then you can get that time together again. That's really, really important, because you can then just sort of refill that tank of love, which I have for my wife again, back up. So yeah, just taking a bit of your own time and making sure you can recoup and relax.
Yeah, I think it's so important, isn't it, to recognise that when you're restoring your battery or topping yourself up, that's good for the baby as well. Because it's often we're bombarded with messages about how successful we have to be and how competent and capable, and actually self-care is the last thing on the list. But that's really good for the baby, because it means that we're better able, or the child, to be available to them when they really need us. So anything that you can do to look after your own well-being is super important, and not selfish.
I think also as well, if you don't have that nurturing universe around you, that family support, it's really important again for the health visitors there to help support you. As I've met all the families that we've come forward to take part in this project, and it's been a privilege to sort of speak to them and find out about their journey. But it's also a recognising who's out there for support. If you don't have that family support, if you don't have somebody there, then we are there as health visitors to help support you and to unpick that and to provide that support, or signpost you to different places that might be able to help. Especially in terms of if you're struggling with your mental health, because it does impact sleep. Is pivotal to everything. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the bottom is sleep. You can't find that get to the top of that triangle without those basic needs. They are basic needs, so we recognise that, but it's finding that support, whichever works for you, is really to get that key message out there, to ask for that help. Wherever it may be that you feel comfortable to do so.
Thanks, Pauline. Anybody else?
I think as well, it's just sometimes taking the pressure off yourself, because sometimes you think you've still got to do all the jobs that you want to do, and the ironing's still got to be done. I know this sounds very sexist, sorry, but the ironing and the cooking and the cleaning, but actually it doesn't matter. Your own well-being is so important as well, and if it means stepping back from those so you can have that rest while the baby's napping in the day, then it's important obviously to do that as well. So not to put the pressure on yourself to still be able to do everything that you would have done before as well.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking at Rebecca for this one to start us off on how important is it to understand how you were parented around sleep.
Yeah, so you mentioned it right at the beginning about how we like to kind of zoom out a little bit and fit where you're at the moment into a story, and that story might be very present day, but it's likely to be influenced by things in the past, and that might be that you need to zoom out and look at what was the birth like, what was getting pregnant like, how did you meet, how did you, and then you can zoom out and go even further back and think about each of your stories, and what that has kind of how those experiences in your own early experience have affected the way that you manage when you feel strong emotions, how you manage your own sense of vulnerability, or were you supported, because I think babies who are distressed are so evocative, aren't they? They press buttons in you, and those buttons, you may be conscious of them, you may be not so conscious of them. When you become a parent, you kind of discover all sorts of parts of yourself that you maybe have not had to be thought about for a very long time, and so it can be really kind of a powerful emotional experience to have things come from right back in your own experience. So you may not know much about how you were parented when you were the same age as this infant, but your body knows and your unconscious mind knows, and you will find yourself responding in ways that kind of might feel a bit mysterious. And it's just helpful to know that those stories that we carry, those experiences that we carry, may be playing a role in what happens in the middle of the night when a baby is distressed, and you didn't get support maybe when you were little to deal with distress. So this is very confronting now, and you usually would push it away, and you can't because there's this baby and they need you. So if you feel that that's something that is relevant for you, it can be really helpful to talk to somebody about it and to start, because as soon as you understand it, you said this at the beginning as well, Hazel, as soon as you understand that might be playing a role here, it starts to change anyway. It starts to, you don't have to do anything, but that understanding might be just that little light bulb that you need to sort of think about your own response to your baby in the moment.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come in on that one? Bit of a meaty question.
It's just about that antenatal, that preparation, like you're saying, about that family script. What is that journey that relationship's been on? And when we see parents antenatally, it's important to understand, like you're saying, the pregnancy. What was the pregnancy like? How have they found themselves here? So that's really important in that family script as to what's gone on for that family. Can then obviously, when you're saying confronted with a sleep, lack of sleep and something that you might remember from your childhood is really important. So having those conversations antenatally can be really important as a health visitor to unpack that, what's going on. And that's why, it's such an important contact that, as part of the Healthy Child Programme, that we speak to parents antenatally to prepare them for that transition to parenthood, to make them think about these things that you've just said, because they will come forward when they've got the actual baby in front of them thinking about it. It's better if they've thought about it beforehand. So yeah, I'll probably add that.
I've not got the knowledge that these ladies have got here, but however, what I'm gauging from all of this is that there's a lot of baggage, if you will, potentially, that people have from previous experience and so forth. I refer back to that previous question about taking time for yourself. Mm-hmm. If not only are you going through a situation with a child who might not be sleeping, which weighs heavy, not literally but emotionally and so on, but if you've still got emotional baggage or things that have happened previously, then that's doubling the weight. So even more so to take time for yourself, talk to people, take the load off effectively by doing so, and so that you can become more of a progressive and proper parent. I say proper parent, but one that's more functional, I suppose.
And I think it's also exploring expectations, so it kind of fits into what's your story, what's happened in the past, about what your expectations are for a night's sleep, because everybody wants to sleep through the night, and then you've got a baby that doesn't. And I think when you've not had a baby before, you can imagine what that might be like, but until you're experiencing it, you're not really going to know what it's like to not sleep night after night. And I think talking to each other about what to expect, and how you're going to respond to what's going on in the night, because sometimes that can cause issues between the two of you as to what are you supposed to do about this. Is it a problem, or actually is it normal? And I think, you know, it's about understanding what is normal, because then when you understand that, and you've talked about understanding, Hazel, about what, you know, how it all works, in that you understand what's normal, and then you can decide what you can do about it to help each other. So it is exploring expectations, and also addressing like other people, like you've talked about all the relatives, and everybody's got an idea about everything to do with the baby. And quite often what parents do is they'll compare their situation with other situations, because this baby is sleeping through the night, and then, you know, it's about actually what is sleeping through the night and what does happen in the night, because to wake up in the night for a baby is normal, and we expect that to happen, whereas I think a lot of people think that shouldn't be happening, so they need to fix this problem, but actually there probably isn't a problem to fix, and that can take the pressure off trying to fix this unsolvable problem.
I think when you talk about the baby brain, which we do, you know, it really does resonate with a lot of families then, that what is typical. This is, you know, this is this baby brain, we understand how this brain develops, therefore I can then understand why this child is behaving that way. It's just going back to that baby brain that we speak to parents about, you know, and get them to understand how their brain develops and how they see the world can be really important. When you're talking about expectations, that can be helpful to talk about that.
Thank you. We've just got a few minutes left, so I think a good question would be, where can parents get help? Anybody?
I think, yeah, just reaching out for help. Like I said, your health visitors, you know, it's about going to, you know, that nurturing universe that, you know, family members may well help and have some ideas, but about, you know, going to those places that, you know, are nurturing. You know, you can get help from, you know, professionals or just, you know, family, friends, but doing it in your unique way, but being curious about thinking about how do I want to approach this? What help do I need? You know, unpacking that and unpicking it.
I know my wife, I hope I don't speak out of turn, I know my wife's on various apps and so forth, mother apps and so forth, and I know when we were going through our trials and tribulations with our daughter, you know, 6 or 7 times a night if she was up, etc., that she'd be busy messaging other mothers that seemed to be up at the same time. Do you know what I mean? So there was like this whole cohort going on in the evening, you know, like nocturnal animals like hedgehogs or whatever. But we laugh and joke, but it gave her a little bit of a feeling that I'm not on my own. We go back to this original point that we made about being lonely and so forth, but she was there able to talk to others. Not to me, obviously, I was fast asleep next to her. But no, it gives you somebody else to talk to. But yeah, there's various apps, I'm sure, out there.
Well, whilst you're talking about apps, we've also got a space online for parents to go and kind of create a little bit of a distance and reflect in the anonymous space of an online course, where we have content about building your relationship in the daytime as well as at night, and all sorts of interesting topics. There's a whole suite of courses on inourplace.co.uk for everybody, and I think it doesn't matter how much you know in theory, how well qualified you are. Parenting, you know, is just really tough. It's because you have to show up with your full self, and you experience a child who may or may not be what you expected to come, and you're in a relationship, and it's just so helpful to take a moment to step back and think about what's going on, start to be able to see the wood for the trees, because when you're in the moment with your child, whether it's day or night, is sometimes really hard to spot that a pattern is evolving, and that's why that online space has been created to support parents to just have a thinking space.
From a breastfeeding point of view, we expect breastfeeding babies to wait frequently, and we want to know that they're doing this, and obviously that doesn't really go hand in hand with a good night's sleep for the parents, but knowing that's normal. And in Solihull we've got feeding groups that parents can go to access feeding support if they feel there's any issues with that, but also to get that emotional support and to talk to other parents. And it's by doing that they realise that actually it's not just you, it's everybody, and that's normal. So quite often people will come to the groups and just talk and listen and go away, and it's great. You know, they feel that they've been supported. But also there's the National Breastfeeding Helpline that people can call if they do need support with feeding, and they're just starting a pilot with that overnight, so it'll be 24 hours. So when we talk about at night with the apps, and you know, if you feel that you do need to talk to somebody because you're awake, because you've got a baby that's breastfeeding, because you think there might be an issue with that, there'll be somebody that you can talk to too.
Thank you. So we're getting to the end of this, I don't know what to call it really, a get-together I'm going to call it. I want to thank our panel. Thank you very much for doing this, because it is a bit nerve-wracking. And thank you as well for participating in the project. I mean, me personally, I'm absolutely gobsmacked by the quality of the videos. So thank you, Jamie, who's over there behind the camera, who put an awful lot of work in pulling together the stories from parents and cutting between the stories to make each video. I want to thank everybody who's here, who's involved and interested in sleep. I want to thank Helen Lake, who's the manager, because without a supportive manager, you wouldn't have been allowed to be part of this project, and that's been really helpful. And I want to thank Samantha, our head of comms, who without whom this wouldn't be happening. So thank you very much, Samantha. You know, that you all pulled together to actually make this happen in a relatively short time is absolutely astonishing. So if you go on to www.inourplace.co.uk, you'll find 5 videos, and you'll see the stars, all part of it, on the video if you want to see them again. And we're going to put some longer ones on as well, so that you can hear people like James and Katie talk about a little bit more about their story. So you'll get some of it from the videos that we've seen, but you'll get a better sense when they're up as well. So thank you all of you for participating in this. Watch this space, because we're just continually developing things all the time, and as Rebecca said, don't forget our online courses, because they can be very helpful, and including in the middle of the night. All right then, thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.